Hey everybody, Rob Cairns, CEO and Chief Creator of Amazing Ideas up at StunningDigitalMarketing.com. How are you today? Today on the SDM interview show, I'm joined by my good friend Todd Jones. And what Todd and I are going to talk about is, we start off an intro that includes a little bit of classic wrestling talk. Somehow we talk about cats and pets a little bit in it all, but really the focus of this chat is copywriting and the concerns with copywriting in Todd's business. Just a quick little programming note. About 5 minutes from the end, there's an appearance by, unfortunately, my dogs, Ruby, Percy, and Cooper, who decided they had to make boisterous noise during the recording of this podcast. So please bear with it and continue to listen, and we'll talk to you all soon. Without further ado, my interview with Todd Jones. Okay, alrighty, we're here with my friend Todd Jones. We're going to have an interesting chat today. We're going to talk a little bit about what he does, copywriting, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. How are you, Todd?
Well, I'm still trying to determine that, but I think I'm doing pretty good so far.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. You guys are rainy and we have snow, so if you want to get bored, come to Toronto, see some snow, ski away, you know. I don't see any cats in the vicinity today. Are they hiding or?
Well, we're in what the vendor refers to as my cave, my office in town. So, no, she's at the house and I'm at the cave. So
we might actually get through a podcast recording without dogs barking and cats, because I have. I
was watching a Tuesday tutorial a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was anyways this week I think, and Joanna's cat started meowing. Joanna Weed, her cat started meowing in the middle of the podcast, and everybody's like, "Oh, look, there's a kitty!" And she was annoyed at the cat for meowing. I was like, "Let the cat alone. Let the cat meow."
Yeah.
Anyway,
so tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do and what you're working on and what you like to do.
Well, I'm from Arkansas, which is a small rural state in Arkansas, best known from Bill Clinton, I reckon. And just kind of grew up loving things about the South. You know, not everything, but I like pro wrestling.
I do too, actually.
It's good storytelling, right? So Ric Flair had his 70th birthday Monday night, and they turned that into a story to set up a WrestleMania showdown. So I like pro wrestling, and I like, I don't know if you've ever seen or heard dirt truck racing with late model cars and that kind of stuff.
Watch them on TV. I'm a racing fan.
Yeah. So dirt track racing, you know, in Arkansas and in the U.S. is it's your Friday, Saturday night warriors, really. You know, the guys that run the garage down the road, and so my hometown is kind of sort of a little bit of a mecca for dirt track racing in the States. Mark Martin's from my hometown. My dad announced he was a public address announcer at the racetrack when I was a kid, and did it in a couple places. And so we went to watch a lot of dirt track racing, and kind of grew up liking that. I guess there's a little bit of storytelling into my background. I like, my both grandpas were telling stories about something, and my dad was too. He told stories, and even I catch my brother telling stories. And so it was, it's kind of a storytelling group, and I don't know that any of us ever made money that way, but we all told stories of some kind. So I kind of like that, and I like to have snow once in a while, but we don't get it very much in Arkansas. So I don't know. I'll probably think of some more things that tell you more about myself as I go. But
that's okay. I get the dirt track racing. I'm a racing fan, but more NASCAR and Formula One and Indy cars these days. And wrestling, I can appreciate. It's funny because I miss the old days of the NWA and the Mid-Atlantic and all of that stuff. I really do. Having grown up on that, Toronto was an NWA city.
Yeah.
Well,
one of our main cable channels growing up was Georgia TBS, and Georgia Championship Wrestling. Watched a lot of that. Ric Flair.
Gordon Soley, right?
Yeah, Gordon Soley from the Peach State of Georgia. So long. Yep, Gordon, he was a legend, and so you had Ric Flair, the early days of Ted DiBiase before he was ever a $1 Million Man, and Tommy Rich, and Jerry Lawler was over Memphis, and
Yep.
and the young kid that came over at one point that turned into Sting, and Sting's my all-time favorite wrestler, and then turned into WCW, and we had Big Van Vader and Lex Luger,
and then the WWF now the WWE kind of screwed up the whole mess, and
Well, you still have Impact Wrestling, which Jarrett started, and he's gone from now.
He's back in as a consultant. Actually,
he's back. He's back at WWE. I don't know what his relationship is with the TNA or Impact, but he's going to go in the Hall of Fame this year. So he's made some appearances in the last few months, wrestling with Elias and that kind of stuff. So Jarrett was a part of that. Sting was a part of that. At one time, they had a lot of great superstars. I don't know if you remember the old Main Event Mafia.
I do.
That was one of the grandest factions in wrestling of all time.
Yeah.
Those guys, and of course Samoa Joe is now in WWE, and he should, in my opinion, should be a champion at some point. They really just kind of held him back, and I think he's a deserving guy to be a champion. But hard to win over those WWE guys for the old Impact guys. But AJ Styles has done it, so maybe Samoa Joe will be. I think the one thing WWE is missing some of is factions. We haven't had a whole lot of those, and so maybe in the future we'll see some more factions pop up.
That is true. And an interesting note, just to mention, Impact Wrestling's head office is now in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Is that right?
Yeah, if you do a wiki search, it moved about a year ago, I think. So it's
And then Cody Rhodes has started a wrestling group, and I forget what it's called. They're running as well. So, and of course, his dad is one of the best ever.
Yep, no question. And then Ring of Honor, of course, if you decide to go that route, they do shows in Toronto. I like them.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've never seen a Ring of Honor. I think I caught some on TV one time, which is very rare. And then, of course, you had the Japanese one, which actually AJ Styles was at one point. And
New Japan.
Yeah, and Shinsuke and some of those guys came over from that. I think the women have the best potential for factions. They've got some right now with the Riot Squad and some of those, and a lot of people. There's a lot of rumors going around that the Four Horsewomen will come together again, and that would really be cool. But they're on different brands, so it would really be cool to see the Four Horsemen come together, maybe another rival faction. And I don't know. Just a lot of. I wish they'd let me write WrestleMania though. I'm not. They have not done much with that this year.
Yeah.
John Cena used to come out last year every week begging somebody to wrestle him, and finally got his 5-minute match with Undertaker. But I am intrigued by the whole Batista Triple H thing.
Yeah.
That is intriguing. That got my interest, and so that would be interesting. But they're just they haven't really written anything yet for WrestleMania. But if I had a job that would be fun, that outside of anything else I do, it would be to write wrestling scripts. Yeah. I would absolutely love that. I don't know. I might even do it for free, just to watch it play out.
Yeah. One of my favorite wrestling stories is back in the day growing up in Montreal. Montreal had an independent by the name of International Wrestling, and it was, the territorial stuff. Mm-hmm. And the way the independence promotions worked is they had local stars. They brought in people from outside the territory to pop up the local stars. So there was a 3-month feud that was running around between the Rougeau brothers, who became very big in WWF, WWE at one time, and a group by the name of the Fabulous Freebirds. And they were all over, Michael Hayes and company, they were all over the province. So they go to have this final match, and in those days, first of all, they didn't acknowledge that wrestling was entertainment and only entertainment, which we all know. And the other thing they did was they didn't. They used to use a lot of fake blood capsules at the time.
Oh yeah.
Final match was so bad that the province of Quebec at the time would not allow a cage match in the province. So they had to take this group and move it to Sudbury, Ontario, film it in Sudbury, and then when they showed the match on TV 2 weeks later, they had to X out Jimmy Garvin's hair, because at the time him and Ronnie had white hair, and anyway, the fake blood was all over the place. And
oh yeah, so Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair both would cut their head a lot.
Yeah,
and they had blonde hair.
Yes,
so
no question.
It would turn their head
red.
I don't know, it's just kind of a pink or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can see some of those older wrestlers, you don't see it so much today with the newer guys, but their heads will have all these scars from all the blades they cut. There was no fake back then. They just took a little blade and sliced it and could get
that's
the
the way
blood.
it was.
So yeah, it would be a fun job to have. I never really thought about that until just now. I mean, I've kind of thought about it, but not really intentionally. That would be a fun job, and just to write, because I could do so many things. Which some guys and I from high school were chatting about it on Facebook the other day, and I was like, man, I'd bring Jack Swagger back, and because we're talking about how the WWE, the U.S. title has lost a lot of status.
Yeah,
and I said I would bring Jack's wrestling. He's in the he's in the UFC or whatever right now, and he's got to try it. But I never really liked how they use them at the end anyway. I'd bring Jack Swagger back, and I'd have him take the title off of Shinsuke Nakamura in WrestleMania with a big USA deal, and have them in the battle for the rest of the year. I mean, just stuff like that. It'd be a lot of fun. But hey, oh well.
Okay. Yeah, gotta have fun. So one of the things that you and I both do is we're both entrepreneurs. So why did you become an entrepreneur, and when did that kind of start in your life?
Well, I did not grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't really my high school dream or anything like that. So I think a lot of people have a similar story, but I had a lot of health issues that kind of sidetracked any career development, and I found myself at 40 years old trying to get a job and not getting one making more than $10 an hour. And I had these skills to build websites. Now, granted, website development was changing rapidly at that time, but 2012, I think I jumped into it. I mean, I'd been doing it as a side deal, all this time, and I jumped into it full time and started doing that, and kind of got into online marketing, inbound marketing, because just building a website was really not enough to have a career unless you're working for an agency or something like that.
I agree.
And so I started looking for edges and advantages, and realized that you can, a business needs to be able to generate leads and that kind of stuff, and content was a way to do it. We were talking earlier about how you could just almost throw up a blog post and get traffic, and now it's a little bit harder, but I went down that road, and every time I was working with somebody, I was the one that wrote the blog posts. I wasn't great at it, but I was pretty good at it. I was obviously better than the people around me, and I just kept going that path. I decided, that's what I should be doing, and kind of went into copywriting. Well, copywriting, and I have this article at Copyright about copywriting, learning copywriting, but copywriting is really just an umbrella term. So it's interesting when somebody talks about copywriting. So you have different aspects of copywriting. You have the old direct response copywriting, which still exists. I have a copywriter friend, who builds printed newsletters for companies. It's basically a copywriting deal. But you still have the direct response, because people still send out mail, targeted mail and that kind of stuff. And then you have the conversion copywriting, which is more in the technological or the online world, which you use a lot of direct response principles actually to do that. Then you have the more content-based copywriting, people writing articles and blogs. that kind of thing. And I just started diving into copywriting a little bit more, what that meant, and learning more about email copywriting, landing page, homepage copywriting, realizing that people do really not a very good job with the about page on their website. Most likely the second most visited page, unless you've got some great blog posts, is likely to be the second most visited page on your website, and people treat it very flippantly, and they could do a better job with that. So, I just kind of went into that and then realized, hey, my tribe of people like you, Robert, people who are helping small businesses with their business using websites and everything that goes with it. And that's my tribe. That's people I work with, and started building content for them, like some of the templates I've come out with over the last year or so, and trying to help out, and hopefully at some point build a course or two to help with that as well. So there's only one of me.
Yeah,
so,
I understand. I understand that. I mean, the hardest part when there's only one of you and you want to grow your business is sooner or later you got to kind of take it and say, okay, do I hire somebody? And I think you've seen me make some rumbles lately of how I've taken on a VA for part-time, and I white label a lot of the stuff I do now just because there's only one of me, and I've got a mix of big clients and small clients. So, it's like, what do you do with your time kind of thing? And it becomes hard. Yeah. So what's the one thing that people really miss or mess up when they're trying to do copywriting besides the about page?
Well, I'm going to say two.
Go
I'm going to give you two things, but the first, probably, if there's a primary thing, I would say, is not knowing what their target audience is.
Yes.
I see it a lot with freelance professionals. They write blog posts in their blog that are seemingly for other people like them, rather than their target audience, unless that ends up being their target audience. I have seen that work as well. But if your target audience is a small business or a certain kind of business, but you're writing, like you're a web developer and you're writing tutorials on how to install Sumo to get, you're doing it for other people like you. That's not your target audience. That's a big, now, doesn't mean you can't do that. Erin Flynn has done a great job. She's got her business website, which is for her target audience, and then she's got her personal name domain website, which is targeting other people that she teaches how to do a better job being a WordPress developer or website developer. So that's a good example of being able to navigate that. If you don't ever intend on doing courses or selling stuff to other people, then there's no reason really to write, unless that's just what you want. We were talking about Brendan Hufford earlier. Brendan says sometimes you have things in your head, you just got to get it out, and that's okay. Yeah. But
and a shout out to Brendan. Like, really, he's probably the most down-earth SEO guy I know, and probably the most helpful SEO person I know, and you probably concur with that. And
yeah, he probably gets tired of me sending him messages, and
me too.
but I'm paying for some of that now. So, but anyway, I think the biggest problem though is, and you see it a lot really with the not with just blog posts, but also with your copy on your static pages, is not writing to your target audience.
Yep.
Second thing, it's really like maybe even a 1B, is not having a good unique value proposition.
Yes.
In order to have a good unique value proposition, you have to know who your target audience is.
Yes.
So it's kind of a both and I'm not necessarily an expert at that, but I have been studying and looking at that a lot. And so when I do a homepage review, I look at the title of that homepage at the top, in the hero area, and that right there, this is my little tip for you, I guess, is that it should come from your unique value proposition. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I don't. In fact, people are trying to be clever there rather than clear.
Yeah. And
so Joanna Weed, my virtual copywriting mentor, says, be clear, not clever. So, and I've repeated that mantra all the time. In fact, Devender said it to me.
He says that a lot, and I think, it's interesting. We talk on these two things. I think the first thing that people can do, but knowing your target audience, it's the same thing as trying to work out what we call as a customer avatar, and sort of sit down and work out what your ideal customer is, and go after that ideal customer. Now, it's really hard if your business is split the way mine is, where I have two sections. So I actually have two target audiences, depending if it's a major company or a smaller company, what kind of customer. And I've looked at people that have come to me and they'll say, this is a budget or this is what I'm looking for. And I know personally I'll say, but you're not really my target customer, so no thank you. And I've made choices like that where I've just...
Now, and when you talk about avatar, and I shared an article on a couple different Facebook groups the other day about psychographics.
Yeah, I saw it. It was really good. Yeah.
So, and Sarah Peterson wrote that at Sumo, and she, and I don't know if I would go with everything she said, but fantastic article. I didn't study it closely, but what I wanted to do is get in people's mind that when we're doing an avatar, and I don't even like to use the word avatar. I actually did an article about this at Main WP a while back, and I use avatar because that's a key word people are going to reach, and that's what people understand. But when you do your avatar, don't base it on demographics, base it on psychographics.
Yes.
So I don't want to go into that on this thing, but psychographics has to do more with attitudes and emotions and pain points and stuff like that, rather than what age someone is or what gender or what, ethnic. Because truth is, you get you may be let's take, I'm just going to throw out Sarah Dunn, for example, who's does SEO for wedding photographers and wedding professionals in general. Well, the demographics, that's going to be all over the map, but they're all going to have the same issues that Sarah would choose to meet. So, I think if you're a large B2C, then there may be something to be said about demographics. Also, like I run a news site, it's more of a story, hyper-local lifestyle blog in town. I do pay attention to demographics to a point, because I want to know that, hey, we actually have more men than ladies reading this site, which kind of surprises me. We have more people at this age group, because at some point, advertisers, sponsors not want to know that information. But as far as a B2B or, smaller scale business, and I think you really want to pay attention to the psychographics versus the demographics.
No question. I think you're absolutely right on the money. I think you just got to do, and I think a lot of it around customers is, and where people miss the base when they're telling stories or writing, they don't tell people the why you need something. There's a really good book called, I'm just trying to remember it, Start With Why. And it basically means tell the customer why they need somebody. Right to the customer, not all the fluff that we do. So, for example, a story they use in the book is Creative Labs came out with the first MP3 player. And they said, we have an MP3 player that will hold 5 gigs of music, I think, something like that. And then Apple came out with the iPod and said, but I can give you 1,000 songs, put it in your pocket, listen to it for 16 hours. There's the why. And that has to work into your copywriting, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's actually the difference between features and benefits. Yeah. So the benefits taps into the psychographics really well, but there's nothing wrong with starting with the features. And so the first company you mentioned could have absolutely started with that, but 2 gigs or whatever, and this will allow you to carry 500 songs with you, and you don't have to have a radio station. All you have to have is our little MP3 player, blah blah blah. They could have done the same thing Apple did. Apple, they did it. Apple's been one of the best at selling the benefits over the features for years, and so anybody can do that. And if you always, sometimes we have trouble just figuring out what the benefits are. We'll start with the features. Yep. What are your features? And then take each particular feature and ask, so what? That's a little trick that we've learned in the copywriting field. So what? And then keep doing that until you find the why, the word you use, the why. So we have a dynamic website made by WordPress. Why is that important? Well, we have it so that you can update the website anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's the benefit of having one benefit of having a WordPress website.
Oh, there's many others. That's another discussion for another day.
Oh, yeah.
On that one.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you and I have talked about both on Facebook and offline and several things was recently you came up with this really amazing lead magnet, which I actually thought was really good. I think I've said that to you several times. It's one of the better ones I've seen. How did you come up with that? What was it about, just for people listening? And how did you do with it?
About a month ago, some guys, I ran into some guys, and they were aliens. They took me up to their ship and took me back to their planet, and they drilled into my. No, I'm kidding. I had to have some kind of cool story to tell you, right?
Yeah, there's your storytelling again.
Yeah, a while back, I had this fleeting thought. In fact, I was doing a website. It's like, it was a great time for me to think about, what are the different things I had to come up with in terms of content. And I thought this would be an excellent checklist idea for developers who are trying to pull content from their customer who maybe they probably haven't hired, most likely haven't hired a copywriter. And I can remember all the projects I dealt with where it was a pain, and then you got tools out there, James Rose has got Content Snare, and a tool is a tool, and it's only as good as the instructions you can give the client. So I had started listening and frankly deleted it somehow. Didn't get it into anything saved. And then it came back up a few weeks ago, and I had to pull it out of my head, what I had written down, and I showed it to, I don't know how Kyle had started Kyle Van Diesen, I don't know if that's how you say his name, Kyle from the admin bar had started this little question about a checklist of some kind. I said, I thought about doing a checklist for this. He goes, you do it and I'll design it. I was like, okay. What he thought, he just made it. I was like, well, checklists, you can always add, you can always find something, but he said he designed, he said, I just asked you to share it in the admin bar first. I said, sure, no problem. So, it's just little things that you maybe hadn't even thought of. And it was because I was doing an actual project, it gave me the opportunity to sit inside and think about it a little bit. And, one thing that's gotten more important in the last year because of the GDPR, is that what they call it? The European
privacy
yeah.
laws. Oh, you mean the mess from hell?
Yeah, exactly. But nevertheless, what that's done is most companies are paying attention to privacy and things. I can remember when I was at an agency, we were working on a website. I said, what about privacy? And my supervisor at the time, he said, we do that on e-commerce sites. So if we're selling something, we won't worry about it on a regular site. Okay. Things have changed a little bit since then, right? So now we're thinking, even if we're not required to do it, even if we don't think we're going to have European customers, it's just a good idea, right? So now people are starting to have privacy or terms and conditions or both and or whatever. So that's one of the things I added to the checklist because that is something that, especially if you're selling something, but WordPress is even built in its core a way to generate that pretty easily, if it's not complex. And so little things like that. One thing I noticed when I would do a project, even if we had a copywriter, filling in the settings page on a WordPress site, you have the name of the company or the name of the website, as you called it, and then you have a tagline area. And most people don't fill that in. Most people don't think of it.
I know.
I think I put that in the checklist. I sure hope I did. But that's a little thing that we never even, talked to our client about. Even when we had a member of our team doing copywriting, that was not done. I don't know how many times I just made something up. Because they didn't have a tagline or anything like that. I just made something up. And really you don't want to leave that to some developer just making it up. You want to have something there. And I saw a copywriter's website yesterday maybe, where it was obviously she hadn't put anything in the tagline. And so, that's why I come up with the checklist. Also, when you do a page, you typically have a spot for the meta description. I'm not going to worry so much about keywords, but the meta description is pretty important because that's what's in the SERP, the search engine result, whatever that's called.
Search engine result page.
Yeah, search engine result page. And so little things like that I added to that list, and I also gave a little bit of a formula for building out a home page and a little bit of a formula for building out an about page in there. And Kyle did design, did a great job.
He did, actually.
Sent it right over to me, and I had to throw up a landing page, which is pretty simple. And then
let's talk about the landing page for a sec. It's funny because I see a lot of landing pages. I've taken landing page courses. I've designed landing pages. And I think one of the biggest things with landing pages people do is they have too much going on. And like the whole design of a landing page in your case is to get somebody to opt in to get that checklist. You don't want to give people 5 options and say, do this, and do this, right? You just
So you have a couple different kinds of landing pages. With a lead magnet, you're right. You're just trying to get them to do one thing. And so you don't want to overcomplicate it. I did add a little bit of pain down there, a couple of paragraphs, and that's all I did as far as that goes. There's a great landing page course, free, easy to go through by Unbounce. I highly recommend going through it. The copywriting section is actually written by Joanna Weed, so I go back to that a lot, and I've come up with stuff. If you have a landing page that intends to sell something, well, you need more than what I put on the content checklist landing page. Of course. You need to have some stuff. Social proof is important, but this being a content checklist, and because I was trying to throw it up real quick, I decided to keep it pretty simple. I think, I've asked myself what made this one so much more successful than any other lead magnet I've ever done, and I think in some ways it's the right piece of content at the right time for the right people. But I had been in some of these Facebook groups building connections, maybe a little bit of credibility the last 2 or 3 years. It's kind of like if somebody nobody knew said, I got this checklist, nobody cared. But, here's this guy that he gives out feedback about copywriting and content, and he's been on the admin bar, and he's been on the vendor's podcast, and I've been on, other stuff, and people begin to know I have a little bit of credibility. Okay, so Todd put this out. It's probably pretty good. Oh, and by the way, Kyle designed it, so it's a really good design. Yep. And so all I can say is I think it was just a perfect storm. Some of the other stuff I've had hasn't done as well, but this one has. I haven't. In fact, this page is not linked on any other page on the site. You can't find it on the blog. You can't find it on the home page or the about page. I just haven't even had a chance to implement it in those pages. So everything I've gotten has been from social media on this, and most of them from those Facebook groups. Because I've posted on Twitter and LinkedIn. I don't know if maybe 1 or 2 people probably have come from those places, but the vast majority of it come from the admin bar or the vendors group. I don't know how many places I've shared it, honestly, but I'm pretty sure most of those have come from those 2 groups. So it's just a matter of the right people at the right time for the right piece of content. But I think building the relationship over the last couple of years with people, even if they don't know me personally, but know about me, I think that is probably the magic sauce on this particular lead magnet.
No question. I think marketing as a whole is all about conversations and relationships, and people say, oh, you can just market. I think where you do the best, personally, is the conversations you have and relationships you have. And I look at, even the people I work with, and frankly, at the end of the day, some of these are 3, 4, 5 year relationships, and it's just being known, being helpful, because you're quite helpful with suggestions. I know, depending on what I'm working on in several Facebook groups, I tend to throw my 2 cents in as much around just to help people. And there's no real motive except trying to help people solve a problem. I mean, and that's,
we're all in it together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a number of ways you can go, and you just got to keep going at it. I mean, it's just a way of marketing. So, what tip would you give somebody if they wanted to build a lead magnet? Do you have any real easy suggestions for them? Having been through the process?
Well, I mean, the lead magnet itself needs to look good. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And you can get a designer. You might have a friend or somebody who can help you with it. I mean, Kyle, I'm sure that I'll help Kyle down the road for something, or maybe already have. He just offered to do that. If I didn't get Kyle to do it, probably would have got the vendor to do it, because they're better than me. But I would use Canva if it was me. Now, the whole 3D, I've always struggled with that, the 3D cover image thing that they do. I've always struggled with that, and I've always either used something online or the vendor or Kyle or somebody's done it for me. But I think the biggest thing about a lead magnet, there's a couple things I'd say. When you know your audience, you know who they are, and you know what their pain points are, you know what can help them. Now, you may try 5 or 10 things that can help them, but may not be the right thing. And I've put out a lot of lead magnets over the years. I've got homepage template, about page thing. I've got several, and I'm probably going to go back and build a page for all of them where you can download them, because they, pull them all together, because they kind of scattered. But I would say when you have an idea of something that could help, and it could be a content upgrade. It goes with a blog post you have. Build the lead magnet, and automate. When I say automate, use an opt-in form. Use the one by the guys at Astra, and I can't think what it's called right now, but Sumo's good. Opt-in Monster, whatever you want to use, something like that will allow you to do deliverability. You can deliver with whatever email software you use. I'm using MailChimp. Pretty easy to do with MailChimp. So none of that is. Don't make it complicated, for one, because you're giving it away, right? Nothing wrong with giving really good content for free, but don't make the process complicated. So you have tools at your disposal, many of them for free, or pretty inexpensive price. I mean, Sumo you can install for free. So Opt-in Monster is a free, but as long as you can connect it to your email software, but make sure it's professionally designed. Keep trying something that meets a need for your audience. One of them will probably work. Again, on the back side of it, has nothing to do with the actual lead magnet, is building that relationship, right?
Yep.
So whether you're doing it on LinkedIn or in a Facebook group or in a Slack channel or whatever, building that relationship over a period of time, offering that help. It's Kim Doyle. Our favorite California girl. Oh yeah, our favorite California girl. She has a saying about content that it builds. What does she call that? I want to say equity, but content is you're building compound interest. I think that's what she called it. And when you're helping people in these groups, you're building compound interest. Whether you're doing a podcast like you do, or a Facebook Live like you do at times, or helping somebody in a Facebook group. Or I've seen people, I've seen James Bollis from Oklahoma do this. Like, somebody had a question about how to do something. I fired up my Loom and made a tutorial real quick. I mean,
James does that a lot, actually.
That is compound interest after a while. And then on the backside of that, I just put out this lead magnet. Well, this is the guy who fired up loom and showed me how to do something, I'm going to pay attention to what he said. This is the guy who had me on his podcast. I'm going to listen to what he had said. This is the person. I'm saying guy. A lot of them are ladies.
Yeah,
too.
guy. It's a generic term, but I agree with you. I mean, I've walked into, I walked into a networking event in Toronto last week, and I've told the story a couple times, and somebody said to me, who I didn't know, I know you from somewhere. Where? And they said, oh, yeah, you do Facebook Lives on a regular basis on your Facebook page. That's where I know you from. And so it's about getting known. It's about being helpful. I mean, whether you do a lead magnet that solves a problem, whether you do what I do, where I like to jump on Facebook and throw a tip out there every couple of days and say, here's how you help your business. Here's how you look after your health. Here's how you do something. You become known for that.
Yeah. And then when you put out something really valuable that somebody can tap into, I saw the dog. when you put out something real valuable that somebody can tap into, whether it's a course like Kim has done, or Devinder, or Moore, or whoever, Brendan, man, you've built a compound interest or compound whatever. Compound interest is the only thing I can think of right now. But
it's a great word. I mean, what I get a lot is, because I don't offer a course right now, is people come to me and say, you've thrown out 5 great tips. I understand it. I don't have time to do it. Just do it for me. Here you go.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And that works too. And everybody thinks if you educate the public, they will not buy. They'll do it themselves. Well, guess what, folks? If you're a small business owner, I have a couple philosophies. One is, if you're not good at doing it, pay somebody to do it. If you don't like doing it, pay somebody to do it. If it takes you too much time, to pay somebody to do it, and concentrate on what makes you money.
Yeah, there's a couple kinds of people, right? You got the people who can afford and will use someone to do it because they can't do it. It's not in their wheelhouse, whatever. And you have the do-it-yourselfer, and that's fine. I mean, I spent a lot of my business being a do-it-yourselfer because I didn't have money to pay somebody to do it. But some of those people won't help you. You won't come back, but some of them will. They can either, their business may grow and they may need you, or they may have a connection who can use your services. It never returns void, right? So
it's so true. And I mean, that's the other value when business owners like yourself and myself get involved in our communities. We do stuff. We get out to events. I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of over the years I've done is I'm involved with Toronto Police in a number of initiatives, and one of them is what's called the Ontario Police Memorial. And what we do the first Sunday in May is we honor all fallen officers in the previous year in Ontario at the Memorial Wall. And we've been live streaming that event for, I guess, we're going on about 12 years of live streaming it, and we've been through it all. Google Hangouts, this, that, the other thing. We now have a professional team that does the live stream, which is nice. It takes me out of it, and I can concentrate with the people I work with on doing the social media for the event and not being a jack of all trades. But then on the other hand, I love the live streaming aspect of it, and it's just a way to grow and make contacts and meet people and so on. And by the way, speaking of live streaming, anybody wants to learn that's listening, follow our good friend Ross Brand. He's another guy is invaluable in my life right now.
Russ is fantastic, and he's got the best voice for live streaming that there is. I run a hyper-local lifestyle blog in town, and so it does require me to be involved in the community like what you're saying and in different ways. And I'll run to somebody and I go, I know you. Aren't you Todd Jones? And I'll be like, it depends on what you think about Todd Jones. If you like him, then that's me. If you don't like him, that's the other guy. But you tend to get people to know who you are from what you do. I've tried not to be front and center for a Conway scene. I try to let the brand be front and center and the people be front and center. But inevitably, people, they meet me and learn about Conway scene, and that's part of how you make that grow too. Outside of putting a bunch of money into it, the only other way to do it is organically, is to go out and meet people So I went to an event the other night, met a lot of people, probably earned some more, viewers. So anyway, Bill.
There we go. And anybody that doesn't know, Todd's got cats, and I have 3 dogs that just seem to invade every time I do a podcast. So sorry, folks. That's just the way it goes in this house, But, yeah, I would agree with you. Being involved in your local community is really important. It's something I've prided myself on for years. I've been very active in the city of Toronto, and I think you too. You do a lifestyle blog. I think it's really important. So.
Yeah, I think for tech, especially tech entrepreneurs, the people who run web build businesses and that kind of thing, I would like to see more of them to get into doing hyperlocal sites, because I think, for one, in the future, very near future, those are gonna become sources of news.
Yeah.
As we see newspapers close up shop, unfortunately, but. So I follow a guy in Frisco, Texas, named Scott Ellis. He's a Genesis developer, just a good guy. When I got started, he helped me out. I bought his Genesis theme to get started, and I model a lot of what CopyWriting is after what they do. I'm not to the point that he is. He also does podcasts and videos and stuff, because he and his wife do that. They do a fantastic job. And Frisco is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And there's a lot of stuff. And, if I could be a fourth of what Lifestyle Frisco is, with CopyWriting, I'd be thrilled. But we have seen an uptick in emails, and that's kind of the currency of choice for me. About this time last year, we were around 30 on our list, and now we sent out 307 emails yesterday. For a new email list. So that's pretty good growth. Sometimes you think, boy, we're just not growing that fast. And then you look and go, wow, 10 times in about a year. I can live with that. So
can I.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll have 10 times in the next year, but maybe so. I'm trying to work on a campaign now, so that will grow the list. And I just keep doing it. And we sign up somebody almost every week, or every other week anyway. And just trying to get people on the list, and we're starting to get to the point where businesses are taking notice, and they want to be involved, and that's when you can start thinking about maybe getting sponsorships or something like that to begin bankrolling some stuff where I'm not spending all the money. Right now, I guess why it's to be able to pay something to people for writing articles, but. Anyway, I've got this young lady who helps me. We have one of the largest universities in town, and she does a fantastic job. We put together a ultimate guide of events each month, and she does a good job at that. And it takes a lot of pressure off of me, and she also helps with pretty much spearheads the Thursday email. So it's been a really cool partnership. I'm just thrilled that I don't know how long she'll stay with me, but she's been a part of that since October and September, really, and just exciting, and I'd like to bring on some more people. Anyway, it's a good thing to do, and I think anybody who's in this kind of line of work we're in, I think Jason Vance is doing some of that as well.
No question. I try and do some of that. I host some sites where I give my time, and I just think it's really important to give back and be part of it and be involved. And I've taken an approach. I used to sit on a lot of community boards, and now I've taken the approach. I'm so busy that I'd rather just do behind the scenes work. I don't want to make decisions anymore. I don't want to be the guy to say yes or no. I've had all kinds of roles, and I basically say, if somebody wants some help, and, I'll do a couple a year where I'll say, okay, beyond some regular ones I do, I'll say, I'll be glad to give you some help for, some important causes. And I think the only thing I really insist on is my logo being down on the bottom somewhere. And that's about it. As we talk business, and we both run online businesses, what are some, besides WordPress, because everybody says WordPress if they're in this space, what are some of your favorite tools that you use to run your business?
Well, I think about one that's pretty indispensable for me currently, and that's Wave Apps. I've used that to do my invoicing for several years now. Not being someone who uses the big names and so forth, I never got into that, and I'm not a very good accountant. Actually, I'm a terrible accountant, but it does allow me to do the invoicing and at least keep track of what I'm doing, which is helpful. I still, I'll use the numbers to help me file my taxes in April every year, but it does track it, keeps up with it. I mean, it's hard to argue with it. Doesn't cost me anything. So, and they have been pretty responsive pretty much whenever I've had an issue. So that's one. Obviously, I use WordPress. When I started realizing I need to build themes or build landing pages for myself or clients or whatever, I decided, and I don't really build them anymore. I'll build them for myself, but I'm not going to build them for a client. Unless, I like the guy or the person real well. But I got really into Beaver Builder, and I was using Lead Pages at the time, which is it's a good product. It's a SaaS. They even do a really good job helping you integrate to your WordPress site, but it is a $30 a month or whatever the price is. And even with paying the yearly license from Beaver Builder, you're saving money. And so I went to Beaver Builder, and then I started using Astra to work with that, which is a theme that's allowing me.
It's a really great theme for Beaver Builder and for
Elementor.
I was going to say, and for Gutenberg.
Yeah, so Suje and them, they built that. They were really forward thinking when they built that. And I did a Q&A article with them at Main WP last year. But they built it specifically to work with Page Builder. They saw what was going to happen, did a fantastic job getting in on that. And so now, what you see, I see a lot of people using Astra or GeneratePress or Ocean WP, which is great. Yep. All those are fantastic for starter themes. They all have premium features and work really well with page builders. And then when Gutenberg's come along, and I think we've yet to see what you can do with Gutenberg on a blog post. That's the thing that I'm excited about. I hadn't had a chance to really do anything with it yet. And I'm seriously wondering if I need to take Joe Capassa's course on learning Gutenberg, because it might help me out a lot. Anyway, that's kind of my stack. I use SiteGround for my hosting. All that works pretty well. MailChimp for my mailing. For writing, you asked me in your pre-show questions about tools. And by the way, on the resources, I have a page, or I have a blog post at CopyFlight about, if you're interested in getting started, some places to go. But they're not really. I looked back over that yesterday, and it's good, but not specific on some stuff. So I may go back and do a tool page like the vendor setting up.
He's actually done a really good job. I was going to write a couple tool pages, and I made a decision. I'm just going to wait to his. I'm done right there.
Yeah, well, I got some stuff that I think that, and he's encouraged me too. So I think I probably will. But tools, writing, I pretty much use Google Docs.
Okay.
For everything. I was using AirStory. They sunset that, unfortunately. The Copyhackers team did that. It was really good. Actually, Brendan even talked about it, liking it. The researcher is supposed to still be around, although last time I tried to use it, it didn't work right. So I don't know if that's not working. It's a Chrome extension. If it is working right, that's a fantastic little tool, because you can snip a quote or make a note and stick it right into your document. And it was really cool. But so basically use Google Documents to write my articles, and I will use, and I'm on a Windows, so I use Notepad for distraction-free writing. Mm-hmm. So whenever I'm writing a block of the article or text under a point, a lot of times I'll go to the Notepad and write that. It keeps the temptation to bold or italicize or anything like that away from me, because it doesn't have those things in there. Now, I might put a little block and say, like, this is a quote or whatever for myself, but I'll keep, I can't bold or italicize or do indentions or something like that. I do all that formatting after I've dropped it into Google Drive, and then I do more formatting
Yeah.
maybe different when I drop it into WordPress. That's why I need to do a good article where I can use Gutenberg more thoroughly. I look forward to trying to do that. I haven't done it yet, but so, and then Grammarly, use that a lot to help.
I love Grammarly.
Yeah, Grammarly. Now the thing about Grammarly is while you are grammatically accurate, sometimes what you want to do in copywriting is actually break the rules.
Yeah.
So you just have to ignore Grammarly.
Yeah.
Another tool, especially when I'm doing web copy or pages, is a Hummingbird app.
Yes.
Hemingway app.
Yeah.
Not Hummingbird. Hemingway app is a good app to use, especially to make sure that you're not talking too complex. So, I don't know. And I use Canva for a lot of images. I use Pexels for a lot of stock-free photos, royalty-free, whatever. So that's pretty much what I live off right now. So.
Yeah, that's a really good toolbox. I mean, I think as I say, and you probably heard me say, is find the tools that works for you. I use many of those as well. Get to know them well, and then just kind of build off that. I mean, everybody's a little different. I'm not a big fan of tool fights, as I call them, or the Coke and Pepsi battle, right? So,
yeah.
Like, just get used to the tools, work them really well, and do a good job.
I do. I'm starting to get better at building checklists for things in Google spreadsheet, and that's becoming important. Like I am working on a website copy review for someone right now, and being that it's the first one, I've kind of had to develop my process as I go. And one of the things I've done is build a checklist that I can use, and I'm still getting there. But those are things that, and I've seen other copywriters do things. We talked about Joel Klecke a little bit, and Joel's got some spreadsheet type stuff that for customer voice of customer research that I'm trying to get better at. But Google's the bomb. Google Documents is the bomb. It's just hard to beat.
I kind of work in a combination of Office 365 and Google Docs, depending on what I'm doing. The rule of thumb for me is if it's something I share with a client, it's almost always a Google Doc. If it's something I'm not, it's probably almost always an Office Doc with some exceptions. But I would agree with you. Like the Google ecosystem, despite all the privacy issues and everything else, is still probably the easiest ecosystem to manage for email, for email hosting, for all kinds of stuff. And
and Trello.
I love Trello.
I don't do a whole lot of project management, but that's pretty much where I do it from.
Yep.
Because, man, one thing I just really like, because I am a list maker, I can open my notepad and build a list of things I want to do in this project, copy and paste it into Trello, and either do cards.
Yes.
So automatically build the cards, or you can go into one card and use the checklist feature. All you got to do is copy and paste it, and it just populates. It's so cool.
I actually run all my projects with 3 Trello boards. To do, in progress, and done. And literally, and I just move stuff across, and it says stuff, and I put notes in it, and it says, especially, one thing we all lose sight of is our own business development, right? We're so busy chasing clients. We're so busy dealing with customers, calls, things like what we're doing now. And then at the end of the day, what were those 5 things I was going to do to improve my website? What was the 3 things I was going to do to improve my video? I put all that stuff in Trello. And to me, for managing projects, Trello is my godsend. And I keep it simple. I come from a project management background. I have never found a project management tool that I like, especially not Microsoft Project. It's not happening. I mean, and I just think it's either Trello or Asana, and Asana now owns Trello, so it's choose one of the 2 as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, I mean, the times I've played with Asana, I really liked it as well. Very similar, and just a little bit more complex, a little bit more robust. But I plan with Main WP, I'm doing 2 blog posts a week for them, which is a lot, but that's how I keep up with it. I mean, sometimes it gets a little behind, but I've got, I can at least I can put topics in there, and I can look forward and go, okay, this is what I'm thinking about for this particular post. So, yeah, Trello just works for me. So
me too. And I had actually given up on it for a long time until I'll go back there to our friend Kim Doyle did a video about, I guess it's got to be 4 or 5 months ago now, on what she was playing with Trello, and I said, why am I not looking at this again? And so.
I watched Joanna Weed plan a autoresponder series using Trello.
Yeah.
You can believe that. So you can do anything with Trello. And Trello can, it automatically connects with Google Drive. You can drop a Google Drive link in there, and they have extensions that are, if you want to pay for them. I mean, you can do pretty much anything you want in there for sure.
So true. Okay, Todd, this has been great. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, wants to talk about copywriting, wants to hire you, how's the best way to get a hold of you? Your website and the easiest place?
Copyflight.com is the website. You can email me at todd@copyflight.com. Mm-hmm. I'm on Twitter a lot. And T.E. Jones, I've had that for 10 years or whatever. Yep. And Facebook, I think toddyjones.net is the thing. Or I have both a Todd E. Jones Facebook page and a Copyflight Facebook page. And I'm in most of the big Facebook groups for WordPress people. So some I'm more active in than others. I'm active in Kim's group, the vendors group, the admin bar, the
usual
group.
Ones.
Yeah, those groups are pretty much my favorite ones. I have one too. It's called Uncommoners. I haven't really talked much about that. I think the Uncommoners are, there's a stereotype of what the entrepreneur is, and I think Hollywood has perpetuated that. And you and I know that most entrepreneurs are not like that, Some wanted to be an entrepreneur, some didn't, but a lot of everybody were trust fund babies that had money to start their entrepreneurship with. I think about it when I was a kid, the guy who ran the garage down the street was an entrepreneur, the barber was an entrepreneur, the electrician, the plumber, and it's kind of a funny thing that they're uncommon entrepreneurs, but really we know they are actually the common entrepreneurs. But I'm still trying to figure out what that means to be an uncommoner. But I think that most of us are, and so we just go in there and I'll share some content copy stuff, and we have fun, and I probably should do more with it, but I'm actually amazed that we're a little over 100 people. Mm-hmm. We got a few in the last few weeks when people signed up for the email list, and so I probably don't do as good of a job with that as I could, but I feel like I'm building a tribe, and it might turn into something different down the road. But anyway,
that's the important thing. Thanks a lot for joining me, and you have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the SDM Interview Show. This podcast is a production of StunningDigitalMarketing.com, the agency that can help you with your web design, WordPress security, and digital marketing needs. Please subscribe to this podcast. This podcast can be found on Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and more. Please don't miss the next edition. This podcast comes out every Thursday for your listening enjoyment. Until next time, please keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. And we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great week, everybody. Bye for now.